Hi, my name is Anthony Smith. I'm a retired special warfare boat operator. I am doing interviews with retired and former SWCC operators. We were talking about operator syndrome as a framework. We're talking about SWCC, traumatic brain injury, and major orthopedic injuries. And this is interview number 22. We were talking with Tim Hare, and here is Tim.
All right. Well, my name is Tim Hare. I was a gunner's mate second. Gunner's mate guns in second, as a matter of fact. I was with Special Boat Unit 11 from 81 to about 94. Signed at PBRs and mini armored troop carriers. Of course, running around on Zodiacs and all kinds of other stuff. So I was never I don't claim SWCC. The transition came in just as I was leaving. So I can't claim SWCC. So I was combat craft, put it that way.
Okay.
I did that a lot here. To spend time on the rivers, open wide bay stuff up in the Special Boat Unit 11 area, Mare Island, and then did tours in Persian Gulf on PBRs and places like that. So, so as far as I never did any open ocean stuff. That was all. I was not on a swept boat. Those are guys. We had those for a while. But that was other guys. I was on PPRs and stuff. So, okay. But the bottom line is, like the transits we had to operating areas, sometimes were pretty rough.
Yeah.
And I still feel those shivers right going from my heels all the way to my brain. So, yeah. And so we've been involved in boat accidents and all kinds of stuff. So,
okay.
That's
Interview number 22 is a testimonial of Tim's medical records and his conditions. He answered questions from the following questionnaire formats and gave permission to produce this presentation and share it openly. We use the operator syndrome scale, the GAT-7 scale, the PLC-5 scale, the PHQ-9, the NSI neurobehavioral symptoms inventory, and a SWCC background questionnaire. All right, Tim Hare was in the Navy for 23 years. He spent 13 years as a SWCC operator. He was a 95-33 in the 80s and did Ernest Will deployments, a couple of those. He was at SBU 11 and SBU 12. He worked on the PBRs and the ASPBs. He has over 6,000 hours at a minimum of SWCC fast boat time, and an estimated over 700,000 weight pound in possible events causing whiplash and possible mTBI. So Navy SWCC is a special class of elite naval warriors who have been a decisive force behind some of America's most important secret missions. Special boat operations have unique and often deadly challenges due to the combination of operating powerful, sophisticated machines designed for speed and stealth in some of the planet's most inhospitable environments. The average SWCC career operator experiences mTBI and major orthopedic injuries over the course of their career in peacetime and in war. And Naval Special Warfare conducts missions in over 70 countries, 365 days a year. The sum of SWCC injury does not accumulate until the operator retires. Throughout this presentation and all the presentations that I do on SWCC, traumatic brain injury, and long-term orthopedic injury, we will focus a lot on a term called operator syndrome. It's not a medical diagnosis, it's a framework that we use to describe a nexus of symptoms. It was termed and written up and published by Dr. Christopher Free. There's a DOI link there to it as well. We're talking about the nexus of operator syndrome as it pertains to special warfare boat operators. And I contacted Dr. Free, spoke with him on the phone, have gone back and forth with him on email and communicating with him to better understand operator syndrome and what it is and how it pertains to the SOF community, and continue to collaborate with Dr. Free in the future. All right, so operator syndrome is not something that we understand as a diagnosis, a medical diagnosis. What it is a qualitative descriptive framework involving a nexus of symptoms, and these symptoms are psychiatric illnesses and disorders along with chronic orthopedic injuries. Operator syndrome is an end state to a long career of high octane, high tempo, and high allostatic overload. Um, Operator syndrome affects all SAW forces across all major branches. And when you look at the list of different SAW forces under SOCOM, you see Navy SWCC listed there. So this presentation is pertaining specifically to Navy SWCS or Special Warfare Boat Operators and the end-state operator syndrome and all this nexus of illness and injury. All right, this slide has a list of operator syndrome symptoms. Traumatic brain injury is something that Tim has been exposed to, especially on the boats, but he does not have a diagnosis. He does have endocrine dysfunction, low T levels, things of that nature, sleep disturbances, obstructive sleep apnea, chronic joint back pain, orthopedic problems and headaches, issues with anger, problems with sexual health and intimacy, being on guard or hypervigilant, a lot of memory, concentration and cognitive impairments, executive dysfunction, and some vestibular and vision impairments. Okay, so examining some of Tim's co-morbidities due to SWCC boat operations. He has some blunt force trauma to the head while he was training on SWCC boats. He has sleep apnea. He has a diagnosis and a CPAP machine from the VA, but they did not give him a rating for it. Go figure. He has insomnia, difficulty staying asleep, no rating. He has issues with irritability, mental fatigue, problems with speech, dizziness, vision, hearing, tinnitus, trouble falling asleep and staying asleep, mood swings, personality changes, concentration and focus issues, little pleasure in doing things, overeating, and hearing difficulties. He also has mental fatigue, which is moderate, headaches and migraines with optical migraines. He does have a rating for that. Hypervigilant is moderate, short-term and long-term memory loss, which is moderate. He has sensitivity to light noise and hearing impaired, which is pretty severe, and he wears hearing aids. All right, some other issues. He has head injury. He hit his head on the boat, some blunt force trauma. He also has exposure to weight pounding and microconcussions. He has a C-spine, pain and discomfort, causing headaches, migraines. He has L-spine, L4, L5, and S1 are fused. He fractured those on the boats and back in 1992. And he has nerve impingement, pain, and numbness going into his hips from his L-spine. He has shoulder pain and needs possible surgery. He's had 3 surgeries on his left knee. He has left ankle pain, arthritis in his hands, cramps in the balls of his feet, chronic joint pain, high blood pressure and cholesterol, low testosterone, and severe ED. He has numbness in his hands and his feet, and apparent symptoms of allostatic overload. Are some issues that he experienced on SWCC boats. He rode the PBRs mostly on his deployments, so these boats don't do 50 knots or high speeds, but they still pound in the seas, and you still get different issues. He experienced full body slamming and whiplash from high G-force impacts on these PBRs or SWCC boats. He experienced seeing stars and spots in his vision due to these high G-force impacts, weight pounding impacts on his PBR SWCC boats. He experienced mental fatigue due to high G-force impact and weight pounding on SWCC boats. He experienced concentration and a lack of focus due to high G-force impact, weight pounding on SWCC boats. He experienced seas 4 to 10 foot and while weight pounding on SWCC boats. He experienced orthopedic injuries due to SWCC fast boats, which he injured his knees, both knees, his lower back. He broke his lower back, and he suffered some neck issues. And thinking back from his thinking about his current physical, emotional, and psychological conditions in mind, he did not have these physical, emotional, or psychological conditions when he first became a SWCC operator, 9533. He believes his conditions and issues are attributed to SWCC fast boat operations. All right, traumatic brain injury for GM2. SWCC retired Tim Hare. The average SWCC operator logs about 3,000 hours of boat time on a deployment cycle. There's a 94 study done by Roche in which they looked at NSW fast boats over a period of 6 days and over a period of 36 hours. They accumulated 8,610 wave impacts ranging from 2 to 25 Gs. Of these 8,610 wave impacts, 4,496 impacts range 5 Gs and above. These 5 Gs and above impacts over 36 hours totals out to about 124. So most SWCC operators endure probably 124 whiplash events in an hour. The average SWCC operator endures over 374,000 significant G-force impacts from wave pounding on SWCC boats in a deployment cycle. Tim's is a little bit different because he was on PBRs. It's kind of a little bit more difficult to ascertain what these impacts might be. But with 2 deployments to Earnestville, or back in that time frame, he has potentially over 700,000 impacts out there riding on these boats that cause long-term chronic orthopedic injuries, whiplash, TBI, and all of those things. So he definitely has a high level of exposure on these boats to potential traumatic brain injury, or mTBI. All right, so here's a summary of operator syndrome symptoms for GM2 SWCC retired Tim Hare. Etologically speaking, Tim is a 65-year-old SWCC operator as of March 2023. He has 13 years of SWCC boat service, 2 SWCC deployment cycles, including 6,000 hours of SWCC boat time, which could cause over 700,000 significant full body impacts while wave pounding on SWCC boats. Tim has over 16 symptoms of mTBI and a nexus of operator syndrome symptoms. Talking about post-concussion here. He endured full body slamming and whiplash from wave pounding at significant G-force exposure, causing service-connected TBI, insomnia, sleep apnea, allostatic overload, and other mental issues, but lacks VA ratings for most of these. Tim has not been to a TBI clinic such as NICO, but has numerous post-concussion symptoms which impede his quality of life. Long-term effects of mTBI, major orthopedic injuries, are debilitating for most SWCC operators like Tim. Tim does not have a 100% disability rating from the VA, but he needs to go to a TBI clinic and get an evaluation. According to Tim, when he was a young SWCC operator, first getting on boats or SWCC boats, he did not have any significant mental, physical, or emotional impairments compared to now after many years of being on SWCC boats. And Tim does not have a history of contact sports. All right, here are some conclusions from this ongoing SWCC TBI project. To date, this is still March 2023. I have conducted 22 interviews with, or done record reviews with former or retired SWCC operators. I also have an ongoing orthopedic injury and a TBI survey, and there are 259 participants so far, with another week and a half to go on this survey. So out of all the data that I've collected so far, 100% of SWCC operators interviewed or surveyed have significant TBI exposure, contributing to a nexus of post-concussion symptoms. That's across the board with all of these guys. 100% of SWCC operators interviewed or surveyed experienced full body wave pounding with high G forces, contributing to whiplash, repetitive mTBI, and orthopedic injury from SWCC boat operations, which is proven to cause mental, emotional, and physical injury. You can see the reference there. 82% so far in this survey that I've done have orthopedic injuries from SWCC boat operations. 120 of the 259 surveyed have a TBI diagnosis. That's 120 of the 259, and the majority of the ones that don't have a diagnosis haven't been to a TBI clinic, but all of them have a nexus of post-concussion symptoms, which leads me to believe they all need to go to a TBI clinic for some evaluation. A lot of these guys are retired, as I've been stating for months now. But all these numbers are going to change because this is still an ongoing TBI survey. SWCC operators interviewed or surveyed so far who were never diagnosed with TBI before TBI protocols were implemented lacked the VA ratings for service-connected injuries due to SWCC fast boat service. Since TBI protocols were implemented in NSW, many modern SWCC operators have attended NICO or other TBI clinics while on active duty and have VA ratings for TBI and other post-concussion symptoms, which these numbers are actually showing up in my online survey. Okay, and final conclusions. Information in this presentation provides evidence Tim was a SWCC operator. He was on SWCC fast boats for multiple deployments, and the aggregate of data collected in these interviews and SWCC TBI survey connect long-term TBI post-concussion syndrome and orthopedic injury to SWCC boat service. Most importantly, thousands of former and retired SWCC operators suffer from long-term mTBI, major orthopedic injury, without acknowledgement or help from the VA or from DOD. There's a gap in TBI research on the retired SWCC community or this peer group, as members of this group suffer long-term issues of TBI and major orthopedic injuries. And as for references, there's a list of references there that you can look at. I have a TBI, SWCC TBI presentation on my YouTube page as well, and there's a lot of other references in there. So thank you. Have a great day. Bye.